we acknowledge now with President Obama that we have made mistakes in the United States, and we, along with other developed countries, have contributed most significantly to the problem that we face with climate change.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton apologizing in India, of all places, for America's role in global warming. The same India that's one of the most polluted places on the entire planet. And the same India telling the world it won't cut its own carbon emissions. But that's another story. Steve says the real story is Secretary Clinton did more than just apologize. She just slapped American capitalism right across the face. How so, Steve?
Well, 5% of the world's population, we produce 25% of the world's output. We've done more to fight poverty than any other nation in history in giving people opportunities. India's begun to get on that path. So what is our response is not to say do more free markets, get the economy growing, pull these people out of poverty. It is put in restraints that are going to hurt your economy. This is colonialism. This is not just a slap at capitalism. This is saying to India, don't grow because we don't want you to have carbon dioxide.
And EMAC, free markets can actually reduce carbon dioxide, all the pollutants.
Yeah, they can. And I don't agree with apologizing or say that, you know, putting the U.S. on a back foot, especially with what these countries are doing. The real key now is, you know, just, you know, yesterday, India is rejecting scientific findings that carbon emissions do add to global warming. The United States does have the lion's share of carbon emissions. That debate is still on. The key is, do you want to upend the economy with all these climate change bills making their way through Congress, while India and China won't do it? They won't do it. So if we upend our economy and adopt these changes, it will have little impact if these two countries don't move forward, too, on that end.
And, John, particularly in light that we may not have global warming, we may be in global cooling right now.
Man-made global warming is bunk. They're right to reject this evidence we talk about. Look, this is not about science. Temperatures in the last 10 years have actually declined. This is about politics and money. There's huge money to be made on this global warming stuff. Clean air and water are great. I consume both of them most every day. But look, intentionally lowering output and people's incomes in order to satisfy an untested computer model is insane.
And, Bill, the key is if the Indians and the Chinese are now the biggest polluters, if they don't go along, it doesn't matter what we do.
That's true. But what do we do? And I think Hillary Clinton should be apologizing for being part of an administration that supports a corrupt and untransparent carbon trading system instead of a clean and transparent carbon tax. Now, John Rutledge is right that the evidence is very thin that we've got global warming. But you got to tax something, right?
So you think we need a tax in this economy?
I would rather tax something that might be bad, even a 1 in 10 chance, carbon, than something that we know is good, work and savings.
So, Jack, a tax is the answer?
Look, I just think Hillary Clinton here is talking out of both sides of her mouth. I certainly don't remember her being on the campaign trail in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan talking about America's history of polluting the planet. Those places certainly contributed to the Industrial Revolution in this country. But I think it is a slap at capitalism, because if you look at the ability India's had to develop and to grow its economy, one of the biggest populations on the planet, they have the opportunity to lead the global economy into the next 20 years.
And, Mike, you know, capitalism goes two ways. Yes, capitalism can produce pollution, but it can also clean up pollution because it makes people richer and they spend some of that money on reducing pollution.
Well, the economic theory there is that it happens well after the fact. You get per capita income up to a certain level, and then people feel comfortable enough to start worrying about things like environmental purity. That's the theory. Now, the question is, do we have time for that in an age of rapid industrialization? And what the Secretary was acknowledging is that when we were ramping up, we didn't give really any concern to any of this. She's acknowledging the hypocrisy of that, but times have changed.
Hypocrisy?
19th century industrialization happened at a much different rate than 21st century industrialization does. So the environmental damage could be really compounded. And she's saying, look, we acknowledge our history. We still want to be leaders on this industry.
Hold on, Mike, because that cuts. Mike does bring up a point, which is that we are developing much more rapidly, but so are we in reducing pollution. We have means of reducing pollution now that are far more scientific and quicker than it used to be.
For example, lead in the air. We know that's bad for you. We've reduced that 97%. And if she's so concerned about having a clean atmosphere, not having carbon, how about going full blast on nuclear power?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I didn't see her pushing that
Yeah.
and apologize. She should be apologizing to the Indians. We apologize for not pushing nuclear
Yeah,
power
Elizabeth,
in
the
the US.
point is that to afford these modern means of reducing pollution, you need more money, and capitalism makes more money.
Yeah.
So you need capitalism to get pollution down.
Yes, I agree with that. And I also like what Jack Gage said. You don't hear any talk about us being big polluters on the campaign trail, just like you don't hear about them blowing out the deficit by $3.6 trillion. No one would have won an election doing that. But the key is, and Bill brings it up, what are they doing now? A cap and trade system. That's the thing that's hypocritic, because they're giving away carbon permits for free to their buddies in Congress. That's what Henry
Well, and
Waxman
it's
is doing.
Al Gore is talking his book because it's all his buddies that are making money on it off of these
Not giving
markets.
them away. Oh, no. There's going to be political give and take there. There's going to be some campaign contribution. Listen, Steve, support my carbon tax, and your nuke friends will do fine.
You know,
Not in a million years, right, Mr. Forbes?
Why this love of taxes? Why this thing we have to have taxes? My goodness, the Puritans were bad enough, you know, they're flagellating themselves. Why are we doing this?
But opposition to cap and trade.
Go ahead, Mike.
Opposition to cap and trade does come from both the left and right, and I think that Steve and I would agree that the real worry is that the whole system will be gamed. Middlemen will take off a lot of profit, and we'll get no benefit from it.
But the key is, how do you get India and China to the table? That's the big issue.
They
Because
walk away.
And you're right to show those smokestacks. I was in Beijing and Shanghai, and I got sick coming home. It was a pea soup fog 100 yards out. Trees were scorched. It's pathetic, and they've got a 2-mile high cloud of pollution over that country. They know there's a problem, but how do you bring them to the table?
You don't-
Stop
you don't-
it?
that-
Hold on, Jack. Go ahead.
Question, EMAC. Absolutely. You have to look at a way not to hamstring their economies, but bring them into the conversation and try to get them on board with something that could actually boost the global economy. We have to realize India sees what politicians like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton cannot. The proud legacy of the American economy and the ability to increase prosperity through rapid industrialization.
Last word from Jack Gage. States cutting government jobs to save money, and that's great news for the job market. Well, it sounds like a Forbes flip side, but you got to stick around for the contrarian cash-in crew.